Hi, I'm Rachel and I'm here to do my 18th Author's Answer video. The Author's Answer series was started by J.D. Archer and his writing group, and I will link to his playlist down below. Every month I try to answer one question from their list sequentially. I'm on question 18. I'll link to my own AuthorTube videos below as well. But anyway, question 18 is a reading-centric question, and it's about what book ending would you like to change? And I thought I'll just segue this into things happening in my life right now, culturally anyway, and use this as an excuse to talk about viewing the movie adaptation of The Wife by Meg Wolitzer. Hopefully this will be my last Meg Wolitzer-centric video for a while, because it feels like she's everywhere on my channel right now. Anyway, my mother just returned my copy of the book to me. And this is a book I've been thinking about it for a while, about an ending that I'd like to change. So, of course, spoilers, spoiler alerts. This is a novel about a senior couple, Joe and Joan Castleman, around the time that Joe is receiving a prestigious literary award akin to the Nobel Prize, which the movie just turned into the Nobel Prize, particularly in 1992. So that makes it that when Joe was starting out as a young writer, he would have been a young man in the 1950s. And it's a particular time of letters where, you know, men rule the roost and women have more trouble getting their voices out there. And the book is a little bit of a commentary on that, and about the role that Joan, his wife, actually played in his career, which at the end of the book you find out is really that she basically ghost wrote all of his books. And frankly, I thought that took it a step too far. I guess just in terms of believability, it just made Joe's villainy all the more stark and dramatic. And I guess I was hoping that the novel would veer more into, and it had already discussed really, the ways that the wives of these famous husbands subvert their own desires and their own ambitions for careers or artistry of their own to support their husbands, and that they relatively go unappreciated other than, you know, as the help, to, I guess, mix some metaphors here. But I thought that it was a bit too dramatic to make it be that Joe was a complete liar. But, and more than that, I believe the book ends with him having a heart attack on stage, which I guess it's been leaving a bad taste in my mouth ever since I read it, because up until that final chapter or whatever, I was really enthralled in the relationship drama and what Wolitzer was saying about how women subvert their own desires, and then it just sort of went to a soap opera, and I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the movie. And even now, I came back and I loved it, and I'm wondering if maybe I just sort of accepted that I knew how the movie would end, and maybe that's why I found it more believable in the movie than I did in the book. Particularly the part where Joan ghost wrote his novels. And also, he does have a heart attack, but it's not quite so dramatic. It's not on stage. So maybe that's part of it too. But I guess for me, what sold it, I think about this a lot, about maybe when you don't buy things when you're reading them, and for some reason you can't imagine them, but maybe seeing them on screen makes them seem more believable and kind of puts a, you know, a light bulb in your head, like, oh, that's how it could have worked. And maybe it's just the particular chemistry that Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce had, where it just seemed through their acting and through the story that these were two people who basically wove this web of lies around their lives and each other, and it just sort of sparked open at the Nobel Prize because of the extreme prestigiousness of it, and also because somebody kind of called them out on it for the first time ever. And so suddenly this thing that they were denying not only to the world, but in a large way to themselves, kind of like burst open in this quietly dramatic tableau. Like, this is a very quiet movie. I mean, despite the fact that it's such a prestigious award, it's about a very personal relationship. So many of the scenes are just, one-on-one relationships between people. And so I bought it in the film in a way that I didn't buy it in the book. And in the book, I don't know, I guess and even when watching the film, I was thinking to myself, to explore the things that I would have loved to explore would have meant that it had to be a longer book and more complicated than just circling around this award, because I wanted to focus a bit on what Wolitzer and the movie too teased, like about why Joan allowed herself in a way to really get stuck in this position, and the sorts of things, it's not only her, society obviously in the 50s, literary society was very run by men, and they just weren't all that amenable to female voices. I mean, even today, we just recently saw a study I could link below about how male writers in a certain magazine's recommendation section, they recommend male writers like 4 times as much as female writers. And female writers, it's more 50-50. So even today, there's that sort of blind spot. And back then, it was even more just systematic. And women just weren't getting published as much. And so that part is there. But then there's also the aspect of not trying. Like, in the 50s, young Joan runs into this very embittered woman who is so unhappy about how she's been ignored that she's basically stopped trying and hasn't taken any joy out of the love of writing. And she pretty much strongly suggests to Joan to give it up because she's never going to be respected. And, maybe that's true, but, to give up on your dreams really means giving up on part of yourself and giving into that bitterness. So, there's a sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy part of this to a certain degree. And then there's also the issue of Joan herself, which I think about her as one of Wolitzer's less common female characters, because there's something so aloof about her and kind of cold. And I think particularly her backstory in the book is much more fleshed out than it was in the movie. They just didn't have time to go into that. With Glenn Close, I think you could kind of see where it was coming from all of these years of repressing what she was actually doing. But anyway, I mean, and I think in the book too, I remember thinking this about this stark difference between who she was as a young woman versus as an older woman. Not that she was, unbelievably different, but that people change, and, the ways that they act as a young person with less experience is different than how they would look back on hindsight on their actions, and the way that Joan gave up her career then wouldn't be maybe the way she'd give it up now, and other parts of their life too, and the choices she made in other parts of her life. So yeah, I mean, I really loved the book, and that's, I guess, why I was disappointed in the ending, which felt a little too melodramatic. And I don't know. For now, it's working for me in the movie, and I think the movie was really excellently made. And I'm filming this video right after watching the Emmys, so the Oscars are coming up soon, and I'm no expert, but I guess I get a feel that this is going to be Glenn Close's Oscar nomination. I'll have to see how that turns out. Well, that about covers it for me. Tonight, as I was watching the Emmys, apparently the rain has come to the DC area. It's relatively mild, especially in comparison to what happened down south, and my thoughts and prayers continue to be with the people who have been affected by Hurricane Florence. I saw in the Emmys that they're starting to tout relief efforts and ways to help with cleanup and getting people's lives back together, hopefully. So hopefully we'll be onward and upward from here. In the meantime, keep reading and writing, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.